We're back with the third part of this Get Real series, where we're thinking through how and why young people from Gen Z to millennials leave the church and maybe even their faith altogether. If you've missed parts 1 and 2, please do check them out. Now, I remember when I used to be a secondary school teacher and an eager student would raise their hand to ask an urgent question. Now, assuming that my lesson was going well, I'd allow the student to ask their question, but only to find that it had nothing to do with what I was teaching. Examples include, "Where did you get your top from, miss?" Or, "Did you see that new show last night, miss?" Or the number one procrastinator's question, "Miss, can I go to the toilet, please?" Clearly, these memories still haunt me, and not just because of the questions they asked. You see, despite all of my efforts, some students just didn't find what I was teaching engaging. The twists and turns of a Shakespearean tragedy or the literary devices used in a poem were just not important to the lives of growing and changing teenagers. And perhaps that's what we sometimes find in our approaches to the way that we communicate the gospel to young people. It sounds okay, nice even, but so what? What has the Christian message got to do with me? Why should I believe the claims of the Bible when I can get on in life without it? If we consider someone like Greta Thunberg, an 18-year-old, and the work she has been doing regarding environmental justice, or John Boyega, a 29-year-old who was vocal in the pursuit of racial justice, what we see is a desire in young people for justice and moral progress. They are a generation of activists who care deeply about human flourishing. But if the church dismisses these things or brands them as periphery to the gospel, we could continue to see an anti-church posture in young people who may even still love Jesus and what they see as activism in his life and ministry, but a suspicion of the church. So in short, young people become disengaged with the church, which seems out of touch with the questions of culture. So how can we respond? We can address the things young people care about and commit to a deeper look at the philosophical foundations of these issues. Even the 2018 Commission on Religious Education advises that in schools, pupils must be taught how worldviews offer responses to fundamental questions of meaning and purpose raised by human experience, and the different roles that worldviews play in providing people with ways of making sense of their lives. This is in our education system. So why does this seem to be missing from our churches? Let's increase the challenge and the pitch of our sermons, our Bible studies, and our small groups by asking harder questions, interrogating the other worldviews, and asking why our young people care about certain things. Let me give you an example. Not too long ago, I was walking with a friend when we came across a Banksy piece of art on a random building wall. And this piece had been slightly defaced by some other graffiti, but attempts had been made to prevent it from happening again. They put a small fence around the piece of art. Now, despite the graffiti, the Banksy piece still had value, precisely because it was designed by Banksy. Not in a museum, not in a gallery, but in the middle of an everyday street. People just like me would stop and stare at the art on the wall. Drawn by anyone else, the image would not have been admired by members of the public. It wouldn't have been protected by the little fence, and perhaps not even thought worthy enough to ruin with graffiti. You see, the designer determined its worth. In the same way, we sign petitions. Our young people protest, they picket and even pray for people because they see value in others. We believe that everyone has dignity. But why? This innate sense demands exploration. Now, the atheist professor Peter Singer quite disturbingly asked this very question in his essay, Sanctity of Life or Quality of Life. He asks, why should we believe that the mere fact that a being is a member of the species Homo sapien endows its life with some unique, almost infinite value. Why? We could argue that we have evolved to care for one another for the overall good of human flourishing. However, in an interview with Bobby Conway, Adam Coleman from the True ID podcast, he encourages us to think through this idea. He says, if everything came from nothing and the universe springs into existence for nothing by nothing, then nothingness has no intentions. It can't confer value on anybody or anything. And so it would seem to me then that we live in a valueless universe. Coleman's point is precisely the opposite. He believes, as many of us do, that we do have value in this universe. And this is precisely why we see young people especially, working hard to bring about change and moral progress. There is room in our activism to demonstrate that the Christian worldview can ground our pursuit of justice. The why of what we do matters. Christianity points to presence rather than absence behind the cosmos, a person who is ultimate and who has conferred value, meaning, and dignity upon us. The person of Jesus, who not only endured injustice himself, who suffered alongside us, but overcame death as the last word. In her book, Where is God in All the Suffering?, Amy Orr Ewing reminds us, whether we believe in God or not, whoever we are creatures of dignity. If that is true, the essential part of you that makes you you has a transcendent source. Your value is not imagined or invented. It is real, and its grounding is God's image in you.